some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. There's demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
I'll admit, I may have spoken a little bit too soon based on the video that I did before this, where I said another one bites the dust. Not actually realizing or having tremendous amount of faith that this would be the outcome that we would see happen so rapidly, so quickly, so swiftly. And Jimmy Kimmel, he's done. Jimmy Kimmel is finished. Jimmy Kimmel, ABC pulls Jimmy Kimmel live off the air indefinitely over Charlie Kirk comments. Not only insensitive, but blatantly downright incorrect, inaccurate, bald-faced lies. I've got that to show you and so much more. Let's get started.
Disney and the ABC network are taking Jimmy Kimmel live off the air indefinitely. This follows a controversy over comments the late-night comedian made Monday night about Charlie Kirk's suspected killer and the MAGA movement and their reaction to the assassination. Let's get straight to CNN's chief media affairs correspondent, Brian Stelter. Brian, what is going on?
That's right. This is fast developing this afternoon, Jake, amid pressure from the Trump-aligned FCC. And in the past few minutes, ABC confirmed to CNN that Kimmel's show will be off the air, quote, indefinitely. We have not yet heard from Kimmel or his representatives. That's how quickly this has been developing. But let's back up and look at what Kimmel actually said on the program that has caused controversy. This is from Monday night in his Monday evening monologue. Kimmel suggested that the alleged killer of Charlie Kirk might have been a pro-Trump Republican. He said, quote, the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. He said in between the finger pointing, there was grieving. Kimmel was expressing what we've heard some other liberals say in recent days, that the motives are unclear and that maybe the suspect in this case was a Republican or was some sort of far-right fringe figure. Of course, there has been a lot of discussion about that in recent days. There's a lot of evidence pointing in other directions about the suspect. But Kimmel was on the air talking about this, making a very serious commentary amid his jokes in his monologue Monday night. Here's where it became interesting earlier today. The FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, went on a far-right webcast and condemned Kimmel and urged ABC to suspend him. He also talked about possible regulatory punishments of Disney because there are lots of different stations that have licenses with the FCC. Within the past hour, we've heard from a big owner of stations that have affiliations with ABC, a company called Nexstar, saying that they were going to suspend Kimmel's show on their station. So in other words, about 24 stations were refusing to air Kimmel's show tonight as a result of this controversy. And then, following word that some of those stations were basically revolting against Kimmel, Disney, the parent company of ABC, decided to yank the show entirely. So that's all we know at the moment. We know that Kimmel will not be on the air tonight or for the foreseeable future because the network says the show has been yanked off the air indefinitely.
Brian, just to take one issue, your interpretation of what Kimmel said, I think, is the one that Brendan Carr had and the one that the individuals at Nexstar have. But what he said specifically was, quote, the MAGA gang is desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. That can be read in several ways. That could be heard in several ways. It could also be it could also be argued he's saying that what the MAGA gang is doing is just trying to make sure that they don't have any ownership of it, not necessarily that that this killer, this horrible person, was part of them. I mean,
I think you're making a very important point.
Yeah,
You're making a very important point. And let's take it a little bit step further. This was all on Monday night. Nobody seemed to notice this yesterday, Jake. This all erupted in the past few hours when the Trump-aligned FCC chairman decided to point at it. Now, I've heard from him in the past few minutes, Brendan Carr, thanking Nexstar for doing the right thing by yanking the show. He has not yet commented on ABC yanking the show altogether across the entire country. But let's remember that when Stephen Colbert's show was canceled over the summer, what did President Trump say? He said, next up will be an even less talented Jimmy Kimmel. It is clear that pro-Trump allies have been trying to target ABC over Kimmel for several weeks now, and tonight they've prevailed.
And what stage of grief do you think Jimmy Kimmel is at right now?
A lot of people I know are thinking about where they can get citizenship and
I do
stuff.
have Italian. I did get Italian citizenship.
You do?
I do.
Oh, that's amazing.
I do have that. And what's going on is as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Way worse.
It's so much worse. It's just unbelievable. Like, I feel like it's probably even worse than he would like it to be.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do. Every once in a while, I'll Google Trump regrets or MAGA regrets just to see all the people that I'm not happy that they're upset and but it makes me hope that maybe this will bring people together. A lot of people I know are thinking about where.
Yeah, these Democrats are trying to bring people together, and you'd actually have to search for Trump regrets or Trump voter regrets, because it's not just going to be out there floating out, on social media, because those people don't actually exist, regardless of the stories and spin that the left tries to put on it. And don't even get me started on the whole racial debate of it, because that is such a tiring conversation to have. But even the likes of Stephen A. Smith, who has voiced this in the most articulate way possible, probably, is still doing that and really addressing Black voters more so than anything else or anyone else or any other group, but doing it in a far better way than Barack Obama addressed Black voters, as he rounded them up in some back room and threatened them to vote for Kamala Harris or else. Remember that?
Black men are like most men. Affordability. The economy. You understand? I mean, yeah, how much money you going to put in my pocket? How much taxes am I going to pay? How can I afford to provide for and to protect my family? You want safety in the streets? Certainly you don't want to see people getting arrested and being let out of jail the same day. Now, we all know that the liberals were guilty of that. Yep. I would never accuse the conservatives of being guilty of such a thing. You know what I'm saying? And I got a lot of issues with the conservatives. That ain't one of them. When you talk about Trump and you look at him, you know that if it wasn't for COVID, in all likelihood, he probably would have won re-election in 2020. That's right. And so you take those things into consideration, and it's important to understand that affordability, the economy, was a big, big, big issue. And then when you take into account immigration, and the position, it's not so, listen, everybody knows immigrants help build this nation. And if you're smart about America, you don't want completely closed borders and don't want anybody in. But when you let 12 to 14 million people cross the border illegally, that is problematic. And if you think, and as often, I know this might offend some people, but you'll get over it. But because I've religiously said it, and I'll say it again. When white folks catch a cold, Black folks catch pneumonia. No matter what goes on in this world that's problematic for white folks, it is always worse for Black folks if it's bad for white folks. If you got unemployment and it's hovering around 4.5% for the white community, it's 7.5% for the Black community. It's even worse for Black men. Certainly it's affecting Black women more than ever before, more than usual in this point in time. We know that. And so as a result of it, when you're looking at those certain situations, and these are the kind of things that the liberal movement was promoting, oblivious to the or not caring enough about the ultimate detrimental impact it would have, there were people that rose up and said, enough of this, because since 1964, when Lyndon B. Johnson told the world, you know what, when we pass civil rights legislation, okay, guess what? We'll have the Negroes voting for us for the next 200 years. And sure enough, over the past 60 years or so, a vast majority of African Americans have voted Democrat. We know that if we're doing our homework, we serve to disenfranchise ourselves, because we told the Democratic Party, you got our vote no matter what. We told the Republicans, you ain't getting our vote no matter what. Neither was incentivized to really put forth an effort to give us the representation we deserved. And as a result, we disenfranchised ourselves, but we're not seeing it that way. You got migrants coming to this country that clearly see it that way. Look at the Hispanic population. You got Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Guatemalans, Cubans, everything. And you don't know who's going to vote what. So guess what? Both sides are trying to appeal to them, which means they're not being ignored. That's the game. And unfortunately, we as a black community lost our way in that regard. And not only that, it's turned so many other communities off against us, because they've said, what are y'all doing? Do you not see that this is working against you? So this was a huge, huge step, no matter how much we may lament it because of some of the things that we're seeing right now with these tariff wars and other things that we're seeing, and National Guards in different cities. We're still seeing certain things that make us say, yo, we don't want to go back to what it was like in 2020.
I do want to interject just for a moment.
We have to recognize that on both sides, undoubtedly there are people who are extremists and who say things that are contrary to what I believe are America's core values. But I will say that those extreme views were not in my White House. I wasn't embracing them. I wasn't empowering them. I wasn't putting the weight of the United States government behind extremist views. And that is when we have the weight of the United States government behind extremist views, we've got a problem.
But I digress. The Democrats are bringing people together. They're just bringing the worst of the worst people together. A bomb squad in Phoenix just responded to a suspicious package outside of the Turning Point USA headquarters where Charlie Kirk's memorial is. Eric Doherty says, unreal. This has to stop. Pray for everyone's safety. And I've got another clip here that I want to share with you guys at the end. But first, Benny Johnson, know thy enemy, he says.
That in all of my dealings with Charlie, he was, at the utmost, a coalition builder. At any Turning Point event, you could see Charlie Kirk constantly uniting disparate voices in the movement, whether that is Candace Owens or Ben Shapiro or Tucker Carlson. You know, all three of them would share the stage at a Turning Point event. All of them. The bringing together and the fusion of men like RFK Jr. and Donald Trump. Don't go back and check and find what RFK Jr. was saying about Donald Trump in the earlier days of his career. Charlie Kirk was able to bind them together on stage, as we remember, in extraordinary fashion. Charlie Kirk was about focusing on our combined enemy, on the true enemy, those who will spit on our graves and dance on them and laugh demonically in the faces of our orphaned children. Those are our enemies. That ideology must be tore up, root and stem. And we have a generational opportunity to seize this moment and to dispatch that ideology from civil society, to demonetize, to defund, to destroy those who wish wanton violence and terroristic actions against us. Never in the history of our program once, ever, even coming close to the line. Never have we called for violence or anything other than those who even we politically oppose to live peaceful lives as Americans. I can disagree with you. That is the purpose of our nation, that we have pressure release valves that do not lead to violence. That is what Charlie was all about, and he was about uniting the right against that common enemy, those who wished us literal death. Charlie told this to me on many occasions. And today's show on the memory of Charlie is going to be about setting aside our differences, sometimes with other creators, sometimes in this whole media ecosystem where we're all like everyone's at each other's throats all the time. We do our very level-headed best to stay out of it. The Quartering was attacking me on his channel. That's just Jeremy. Okay. We figured it out, and then he was on my channel live, like within the week. That I do my best to bury beef because I don't have time. Energy is not unlimited. I must ensure that we are focused on the task at hand, which is the defeat of the terroristic, bloodthirsty, demonic ideology that wants us dead. Before we get to Mike, you'll know your enemies like this. Who are the ones that will celebrate your death if something bad were to happen to you? And who are the people who would grieve you? There are people that have beefs with me. I know that those people, virtually all of them, have good hearts and good faith and would mourn if something awful were to happen to me. I know that. I know virtually everyone in this ego. I've worked for, with, or shared the stage with virtually everyone. On my side, that's what would happen. On the left, there would be a non-de minimis contingency of people that would cheer and celebrate and squee demonically, as they are doing with Charlie. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the enemy, that ideology. The ideology and the monetization vectors and the organization vectors and the media vectors that demonize and dehumanize, that, ladies and gentlemen, is what must be ruthlessly earth-salted. And so I beg of those on my side to use this moment and the power of this moment to ensure that there are not more assassinations. When will enough be enough for these demons? Well, maybe never. So be clear-eyed about your enemy here. They put a bullet through Trump's head. They killed Corey Compertor. They killed Charlie Kirk. When will they stop? They won't. We must be united in our purpose in this moment. And I do not like seeing everybody fighting for and jockeying and positioning to try and split up this movement, this incredible movement that President Trump and Charlie Kirk in great part put together.
He's got a point.
Well, I think his point would be strengthened if he were honest today about who burned his house down. You know, it was a Free Palestine leftist who came and burned down the governor's mansion. He left that out. He left that out of his tweet today, and he's talking about cherry-picking political violence, and we're talking about where there might be political violence. The violence against the governor of Pennsylvania and his family came from the left. And so I think, look, I think there's a rush by Democrats who want to be president in 2028 to try to turn, somehow Donald Trump's friend gets shot, and now everybody wants to blame Donald Trump for it. I guess that's what you have to do to get elected president as a Democrat.
We are not doing that sitting here, okay? And Kate,
I'm
please
sorry.
go ahead.
Is that not what's happening?
The governor's
People are
point. The governor's point is that it doesn't matter where the violence came from.
I think it might.
Should be condemned.
Shouldn't it matter the motivations of the people?
It should be condemned regardless. Is the entire point of his speech.
Don't you care about the motivations?
To sit here and suggest that somehow him not mentioning it was some sort of sleight of hand,
of course it is.
Try to make it seem like it was.
I don't think his political party would accept it.
You missed the entire point of what he was saying, and it's a message that's badly needed in this country at this moment.
Look, I think that if we cannot be honest, if I were him and somebody tried to burn my house down, I think I'd be honest about who did it and why they did it. And it would matter for people to know that, would it not?
Scott, is this not a let's rise above because anyone that is committing an act of political violence who is trying to kill someone else for what they believe in, it's like it is inherently wrong and awful?
Why are your two impulses mutually exclusive? Why can't we all say all political violence is bad, which I wholeheartedly believe, and also be honest when people have clear intentions? I think there's a difference between people that have clear intentions and, clearly deranged people. But in the case of Shapiro, and I think in the case of Charlie Kirk, we know the intentions, the political intentions of the people at play. And when we sort of skirt around it and we're not honest about it, we let it off the hook. And I don't think we should let people with clear political intentions to commit violence off the hook. And so I like what he said about condemning violence. I just would like it a little more if we could just be a little bit honest about what happened at his house.
You would just like it if a politically critical message was applied to what he was trying to say. I mean, that's what you're saying, right? You're saying you like what he said in condemning political violence across the board, but it didn't work for you because you didn't try to get in a dig at whose fault it was. The entire point is that we have to condemn political violence from all sides, in all stripes, in whatever form. And I think the fact that we are sitting here even having this conversation is deeply, deeply problematic in terms of where the temperature is in the country right now. I think the fact that you would call him dishonest.
I agree that it is problematic that a prominent Democrat cannot be honest about who tried to burn his house down. I totally agree with you about that.
Especially when you're good. See, the way that this works is Scott Jennings can't get a word in edgewise because obviously the violence came from the left. If the violence came from the right, then CNN would be having the same perspective and trying to drive the same point home as Scott Jennings. But Scott Jennings is far too intelligent and logical for them. And to spend the time, effort, and energy trying to beat this through their thick skulls, figuratively speaking, I think is a waste of time. Again, know thy enemy. And Tyler Robinson, seen here, spent the last few days sleep deprived, going to the bathroom in a hole, naked under the turtle suit, confined behind a glass cage and observed 24/7, interrogated for hours on end. He's in sleep deprived shock. They've shown all the evidence and how everyone who conspired with him is now rolling on him. He's toast, and all his goons are desperately trying to save their own skin. This is someone who's been shattered and is having the find out moment. This isn't someone being strong and bold. He is well aware that his roommate and everyone he knows have betrayed him. He's toast and he knows it. I hope none of them receive plea deals in exchange for testimony against him. They all need to be prosecuted and take the whole ring down. The Discord members who posted and bragged in advance, all of them, and these same people fall into the same categories for which Scott Jennings is saying where we need to pinpoint where the violence is coming from and not just denouncing all violence. Because these Discord groups are an issue. These transgender ideology, indoctrination, brainwashing, take these pills, hormone changing groups is a part of the problem, and it needs to be a part of the conversation and discussion, and not some woke governor trying to cherry pick and piggyback off of this tragedy for his own political objective and agenda without saying Trump's the bad guy, even though he wants to. That's what they all want to do. But using this as an opportunity to secure his Democrat presidential run nomination or seat, for which obviously he declined being a part of Kamala Harris's sinking ship last minute. You guys remember that. And that's how we ended up with Tim Walz, or they ended up with Tim Walz. But I digress. What I do want to show you here are a few posts. I want you guys to be well aware. These are just a few, and there were more, but these are just a few that I saved. Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica, is suing ABC and The View for $40 million for defamation of character of her husband. The witches on The View should be fined and fired immediately, for which I don't disagree. However, truth hurts. D. Clark, John McAfee News, Cue the Storm. Look, I'm just saying, guys, if you come across this stuff, take it all with a grain of salt. trust but verify, believe half of what you see, none of what you hear. And readers added context to this image, stating that this false story originated on Facebook, on a Facebook page called America's Last Line of Defense, self-described as trollery and propaganda. Nothing on the page is real. This is the world we live in, folks. We are steadily, continuously trying to work towards making America great again. And unfortunately, there are some people out there who don't know the difference between trolling and satire and real life, honest to God truth. And speaking of real life, honest to God truth, I'm going to close out with Greg Gutfeld. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think.
Yes, we don't need it. What is interesting here is why is only this happening on the left and not the right? That's all we need to know.
What about
There's absolutely no cognitive...
What about Melissa Hortman that we just talked about?
You want to talk about Melissa Hortman? Did you know her name before it happened? None of us did. None of us were spending every single day talking about Mrs. Hortman. I never heard of her until after she died.
So she doesn't matter?
Don't play that bullshit with me. You know what I'm saying is there was no demonization, amplification about that woman before she died. It was a specific crime against her by somebody who knew her. The same. Now you could bring up Josh Shapiro, but then you will not bring up, for example, that was a pro-Palestine person. So don't use your. What about this? The fact of the matter is the both sides argument not only doesn't fly. We don't care. We don't care about your both sides argument. That shit is dead. For one thing, there is no cognitive dissonance on our side. On your side, your beliefs do not match reality. So you're coming up with these rationalizations like, what about this? Or what about that? We're not doing that because we saw it happen. We saw a young, bright man assassinated, and we know who did it. We are not coming up with rationalizations. We are calm, we are honest, and we are resolute. We're not defensive, and I understand the defensiveness. I understand why people are saying, what about this and what about this? Because if you have to face the underlying fact to this, your life is going to fall apart because you're going to realize you're not the good guys. If you sat around and you defended the mutilation of children, you're not the good guys. If you sat 600, 700 cases of harassment against Republicans and you said, but what about this? What about this? And then you see this murder after calling somebody a fascist, you realize maybe I'm not the good guy. That is a hell of a realization to deal with. So therefore, you have to grasp at rationalizations. You don't have to do that, Jessica. They do. I don't believe you're part of that group, but why the hell do you have to mimic and echo that crap to us? He was a patsy. That guy was a patsy. He was under the hypnotic spell of a direct-to-consumer nihilism, the trans cult, and you know that. If you can decide that biology is false, you can agree that murder is okay and that humanity is expendable. How you cannot see that alone and see that for what the evil it is without having to attach all of these other things is beyond me.
I just want to be clear, and I want to let people speak. I in no way intended at all to minimize what happened to Charlie. I was horrified by it. I have not been on the five
but
since
the two
then.
Sides argument, well, it's like pig Latin to a duck.
No. All that I was saying is could we have all of the information before you just say they did this? Because that is a broad brush to paint with this. And this kid
Let's have a conversation.
No.
Charlie had a conversation. He got shot.
Look,
I'm sorry, Jessica. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You weren't here for a week. You came in here and it's cold. And I'm sorry, but this is a story that is immune to news cycles. It's immune to rationalizations. It's immune to bias. This thing is with us for good. And we all have to deal with that. So that means we can't live by the same arguments that you might be reading about relativism among the media. We can't deal with those stories. It doesn't matter. The media is dead to us on this story. They built this thing up. We're dealing with it. We're going to act. We don't care what the whataboutism is anymore. That shit's dead. Sorry. For the swearing as well. I apologize to the American public. I'm going to shut up for the rest of the show.
And thank you all for the love and support Without you, none of this would be possible. Every donation, super thanks sent through YouTube, memberships here and on Patreon keep us going. Hopefully taking this show on the road here very soon and bringing our voice to you and making an impact for what is to come. Because our fight isn't over, even though we're truly blessed and winning every day that we wake up and touch ground. And it doesn't matter if you're in California, Texas, Iowa, Florida, New York, or Kansas. We're all in this together. And today, I want to talk about something that affects so many of us and our loved ones, Medicare. Folks, the Medicare enrollment period is right around the corner, and I cannot stress enough how critical it is to take action now. Whether you're new to Medicare or already enrolled, these periods, like the annual enrollment period from October 15th to December 7th, are your chance to make sure you're set up for success. Waiting until the last minute or assuming your current plan is good enough can lead to costly mistakes that could haunt you for years, maybe even for the rest of your life on Medicare. And let me share a couple of real world examples to drive this point home. Imagine a retiree. Let's call her Susan from Florida. Susan thought her Medicare plan was fine and she'd be on it for years. Didn't want the hassle of reviewing it. But when she needed emergency surgery, she found out her plan didn't cover the specialist she needed. She was stuck with thousands of dollars in out-of-pocket costs. Now, if she reviewed her options during the enrollment period, she could have switched to a plan that covered her needs and saved her from the financial nightmare that she now faces. Then there's John from Texas, who procrastinated on enrolling in a Part D prescription drug plan because he didn't need meds yet. Yeah, when he was diagnosed with a chronic condition, he faced a lifetime penalty, paying higher premiums every single month because he missed the initial enrollment window. And these aren't just stories, they're warnings. Delays or inaction during Medicare enrollment can lead to overpaying for coverage, gaps in care, or penalties that stick with you for life. And if you are interested in saving money, specifically on your Medicare, then make sure you give our friends at Chapter a call. And I want you guys to really, really pay attention here, because it's come to my attention that most seniors are not on the best Medicare plan. They're either overpaying for the same coverage they could get elsewhere, or they don't have the coverage they need in an emergency. Chapter can review your options in under 20 minutes. It's fast, it's simple, it's easy, and it's free. If you're already on the best possible plan, they'll tell you they're unbiased and they're purely here to help folks, seniors, save money on healthcare, on average $1,100. And if you're not on the right plan, they'll help you switch, even if it's to a plan that pays them nothing. Again, unbiased, folks. This is unique and unlike any other Medicare provider out there. And this is exactly why we love Chapter so much, because they're literally just trying to help people. Chapter works for you, not big insurance or the government. And there's no pressure, just honest, free advice from professionals who know Medicare inside and out. And here's the truth. Most seniors are not on the best Medicare plan for their needs. And according to studies, many are even either overpaying for the same coverage that they could get elsewhere for less, or they're stuck with plans that leave them exposed in the event of an emergency. Whether it's a hospital stay, a specialist visit, or a new prescription, the wrong plan can cost you thousands of dollars or leave you scrambling when you least expect it. But here's the good news. You don't have to navigate this alone. You don't have to wait until it's too late. That's where our incredible friends and partners at Chapter come in. They're offering free Medicare help and consultation to make sure you're on the right plan for you. And you can reach them right now at the number that you guys see on the screen. At the number you see on your screen, 270-467-2426. And here's why Chapter is different. They work for you, not big insurance companies or the government. In under 20 minutes, their expert advisors can review your current plan and compare it against thousands of options available in your area. And if you're already on the best possible plan for your needs, then they'll just tell you, no strings attached. But if there's a better option, one that saves you money or gives you better coverage, well, they'll walk you through how to switch, even if it's to a plan that pays them nothing. That's right. Schedule a free consultation, take control of your Medicare plan, protect your health, and save your hard-earned money, because you deserve peace of mind no matter where you are. Again, let me know. California, Texas, Iowa, Florida, New York, Kansas, or anywhere in between. Let's keep the momentum going here, folks. Share this message, spread the word, and let's make sure everyone we care about is ready for what's ahead. Again, thank you for being part of this community, and let's keep fighting the good fight together.